Please join me to welcoming our next speaker, Elyse Libetti, who will be speaking to us about startup SOC 2 now or later. Elyse.
Hello, hello. How is everybody? Also, I can't wait to see some of you guys after because there's a lot of people here for the most boring topic ever. But anywho, I'll make sure I don't go over. I already broke something. Okay. All right, so startups, SOC 2 now or SOC 2 later. A little bit about myself. I'm a senior software engineer. I've been the head of R&D. I've been team lead. I started as a front-end engineer. But one thing is that I've always been an engineer, but always in the cybersecurity space. So always building SaaS, but always niche to B2B cybersecurity products. Navigating the SOC 2 landscape for startups. First, you have to understand SOC 2 requirements. Familiarize yourself with the SOC 2 framework, focusing on the 5 trust service criteria: security, availability, processing, integrity, confidentiality, and privacy, and determine which are relevant to your services. And make sure you scope the work appropriately. Define the scope, your SOC 2 assessment based on your services you offer and the data you handle. Limiting scope can reduce complexity and cost. And that's usually one of the biggest things that people don't want to do it because it's going to cost money and it's going to take time. Implement robust security measures. Prioritize establishments of strong security practices that meet their criteria as forms for the basis of framework. Get your engineers and your DevOps and everybody doing something from the beginning so that once you implement this, it's not this big shift in work. Document those policies and procedures. Make sure that they document what they're working on so then when you get here, it's not this mad scramble to make sure that everything you have is documented. Use technology and automation. This is one of the biggest things when it comes to saving money and saving time. Because even though these tools cost more, in comparison to your R&D team and DevOps and security, you'll be saving a lot of money on their salaries. Leverage those technology solutions and automation streamlines in compliance processes, such as continuous monitoring and automation and logging. Prepare for audits. Engage with a qualified auditor early in the process. Conduct readiness assessments or gap analysis to identify areas needing improvement before the formal audit. Again, use technology and automation and you won't have to do so much of this manually. Educate your team. Ensure that all employees understand SOC 2 requirements and their individual responsibilities regarding compliance. You can do this by simply having that process started early. They know this is how we do it and this is why we do it. Continuous improvement. Treat SOC 2 compliance as an ongoing process. Regularly review and update controls, policies, and procedures to adapt to new threats and changes in business. This also skip that, forget it. Budget accordingly, allocate sufficient budget. And this isn't just for cost, this is also for time and team, like how many people are you taking their time. Allocate that sufficient budget for SOC 2 compliance processes, including tools, training, and the audit itself. Compliance can be resource intensive, but is critical for business growth and customer trust. The 5 trust service criteria for SOC 2 compliance are security, availability, process integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. For the sake of this talk, as I'm going to stay on the topic of more startups and how your tech team is affected, we're going to talk about the top 3, which are the most common ones that people get. Security, confidentiality, and availability. Security, also known the common criteria. If you're getting SOC 2, the bare bones is security. You need to have risk management. Assess and manage risk to information systems to prevent, detect, and respond to potential security breaches. Communication and information management. Ensure that secure information handling, storage, and transmission does not go outside of the organization. Access controls. Implement strong logical and physical access controls to restrict unauthorized access to systems data. So basically, everybody should have the bare bones. Nobody should have access unless it is required for their job to have that access. Otherwise, they don't need it. Reduce risk. System operations. Maintain secure and stable system operations through monitoring, detecting, and responding to security incidents. This could be as simple as a Slack alert, a channel that has incident management. You can use the AWS Incident Manager, the Pingdom for if your system goes down. There's so many little facets. You can use something like Datadog, etc. Simple things like that go a long way with SOC 2 compliance. Change management. Control modifications to systems and software to ensure ongoing security and integrity. This one goes back to that. Make sure that you have a process. If you don't, get one. Code reviews, code quality. How does something get merged into beta or production or staging and QA? Do you do code reviews? Does it require 1 or 2 people? Have this documented and stick to it. Because as you're getting audited yearly, because SOC 2 isn't a one-time thing, unless you're doing type 1, then it's frozen in time. Then you need to have those processes in place to make sure that you're continuing to be compliant. Monitoring and evaluation. Regularly monitor security controls for effectiveness and compliance with security policies and standards. Again, there's like checklist tools and new AI tools that you can do this without having this be someone's job. Availability. Network performance monitoring. Monitor network performance and availability to ensure the system operates as intended and is accessible when needed. Again, that goes back to leveraging a third-party tool like Datadog or Sumo or Pingdom and all the others. System availability. Again, implement controls to ensure systems are available for operation, use as committed or agreed. Meeting performance criteria. Disaster recovery. This is a huge one. There's so many, even large companies that don't have a process around this. What do you do? Oh, well, everything is secure. No one's getting in. It's not going to happen. But what if they do? Because they do. Like, what are you going to do? How long is it going to take you? What's your SLA around how long it's going to take you to get back online if someone hijacks your SCM? Backup and data recovery. This goes with the security incident handling. Implement backup processes and data recovery procedures to maintain data integrity and availability in case of adverse event. A lot, specifically around databases, a lot of the cloud providers, it's a simple Terraform attribute. Set it and forget it. Make that your policy. This needs to be implemented every day, every 2 days, every 30 minutes, whatever it is. Take that snapshot. You never know what's going to happen. No matter how secure you believe, there's always a way. Capacity management. Regularly evaluate and manage system capacity to handle current and anticipated loads while maintaining system availability. And the third is confidentiality. Information classification. This one specifically is probably one of the biggest when it comes to B2B, like another business wanting to use your tool. Like, why should they do business with you? Proving that what their data is stays within them and stays within our organization is huge. Information classification. Classify information to indicate which data is confidential and establish handling requirements based on its classification. Access restrictions. Again, implement controls. If you don't need it for your job, you shouldn't be there. Encryption. Use encryption technologies to protect confidential information during storage and transmission. This could be encryption at rest or in transit, wherever it needs. Obviously, sometimes like a pure front-end application is not going to be encrypted, but if and where needed, Make sure and have that be your policy. And those automation tools will flag you on it when you're not. Establish policies and procedures for retaining confidential information as long as it's needed and securely disposing of it when there's no longer required. This one specifically kind of goes back to that document your processes. Come up with what you're going to do and put it down on paper. I feel like one of the biggest things issues that me as an engineer and my peers have is actually documenting something. Like you find yourself explaining the same thing 15 times to someone or multiple people instead of just writing it once in a wiki and leaving it be. Agreements and contracts. Utilize confidential agreements and clauses in contracts to ensure that third parties adhere to the organization's confidential requirements. This kind of goes back to do we do SOC 2 now or later? Well, we're requiring other people to do something or ISO or something of the sort. Audit and monitoring. Regularly audit access and use of confidential information to detect and respond to breaches, ensuring continuous protection of sensitive data. Building trust in the startup ecosystem. By doing SOC 2 early, you're going to demonstrate the commitment to security. Achieving the SOC 2 compliance for security shows startups' commitment to maintaining high standards and protecting both their systems and your data. Ensure system reliability. By meeting the availability criteria, startups can demonstrate their systems are reliable and consistently operational, which is crucial for customer satisfaction and trust. And especially in my field of always making SaaS for cyber, this is the biggest. If they're depending on me to help them make sure that they stay compliant, I have to be available and consistent. Protect confidential information. Compliance with confidentiality criteria assures customers that their sensitive information is properly safeguarded, enhancing trust in the startup's ability to handle confidential data. They're getting trust by their customers and they're handing it to us. So they need to make sure that what their word is to their customer is what our word is to them. Transparency is in process. Openly communicate about the measures taken to achieve and maintain SOC 2 compliance. It can build trust with stakeholders, showing transparency and security and operational practices. Third-party verification. Utilizing an independent auditor for your SOC 2 compliance adds an extra layer of credibility. It wasn't someone in my organization. This was a certified auditor, CPA, that did this, and they have nothing to do with our tool. They went in, they poked, they prodded, and we are compliant. Strengthen client relationships. SOC 2 compliance helps in establishing those strong relationships with clients who value security and confidentiality. You're going to see this a lot more in medium to large enterprise level businesses. And when you're starting a startup and you're pre-seed and you want to catch that whale so you can get Series A, Series B, and go far, get acquired, rest invest, do all the things, taking that first step to have those compliances early on is really important. My previous role, I was in healthcare cybersecurity, and we didn't have SOC 2, ISO, none of it. And it was hard to find customers. I worked there for 6 years, and year 2 or 3, we had a huge hospital organization make us jump through so many hoops just to do a POC. They wanted us to fill out every single person to do a questionnaire. And I mean, this wasn't like a questionnaire. This was a biography of the Bible. It was huge. And you would have gotten that trust, and there wouldn't have been so much mistrust to make these things. People fill out these forms and have these visits and have this certain type of equipment if you were already certified. And then when we did go to certify, it took over a year to even get to where we could have an auditor look at it. It was an absolute nightmare. And then 3 months later, we got defunded. Where in this case, like where I work now, we got type 2 within 3 months. And I started, I'm a founding engineer, we had nothing. And recently we got type 2. And it took maybe 30 days tops. And that wasn't people working full time. It's just here and there, 30 days, that's it. By starting those processes early, gives you a competitive advantage, especially against your competitors when going after those whales and those medium organizations. That compliance can differentiate themselves from competitors, appealing to discerning customers who prioritize data security and system availability, especially if your product is around security. Reduce risk and improve management. Compliance helps in identifying and mitigating risk early, which improves overall management and operational resilience. Attract investments. Investors are more likely to fund startups that have proven compliance and recognized standards like SOC 2 and even ISO, etc., as it suggests maturity and readiness for growth. Instead of this hit the ground running, just scrappy, duct tape and popsicle sticks, do what you can, and once we get more money, we'll deal with it. You're not going to get more money. Long-term trust and loyalty. Consistently maintaining SOC 2 compliance fosters long-term trust and loyalty with customers, vendors, and partners, securing the startup's reputation in the ecosystem. Summary of above. The balance, finding the sweet spot. How do I, as an early company that has a small team, not a lot of funding, how do I still get SOC 2 compliance to get those customers, but still make a product? You leverage tooling, you automate maintenance, you create processes and budget engineers' time. Leveraging tooling, we use integrated security tools, implement tools that integrate seamlessly with existing systems to monitor and enforce security controls with minimal manual intervention. A lot of these products today have a Helm chart that you can just pop in and boom, you're set up. Select SOC 2 specific solutions. Choose software solutions designed specifically for SOC 2 compliance to streamline compliance efforts, such as automated compliance checklists and dashboard monitoring. Cloud-based security services. Employ cloud services that offer built-in compliance features, like I was saying about the database. That is a simple attribute in Terraform and CloudFormation, etc. For DynamoDB, every 30 minutes, it'll take a snapshot. Reducing the need for internal tool development and maintenance. Here's an example of a checklist tool. I stripped the branding, but I'm sure a lot of people know exactly who this is. You put in your policies, you give them IAM access, someone messes something up, bing, action item. Or you've got an existing system and you want to get SOC 2 compliance certification, bing, these are the things that need to get worked on. And as always, in security, leveled by risk. Automate maintenance. Continuous monitoring systems. Deploy systems that automatically monitor compliance status in real time, alerting teams to potential non-compliance issues before they become problematic. Automate reporting. Use tools that generate compliance reports automatically, saving time and ensuring accuracy. Regular updates and patches. Set up systems to automatically handle updates and patches for software, reducing manual workload and maintaining security. Most SEMs have some kind of action or plugin that does this for you. GitHub has Dependabot, and every day it'll ping you and say, you need to update this minor version, and it'll give you a PR to do it. So when we got our SOC 2 compliance the first time in Type 1, the question the auditor asked was, what tool did you use? And the tool that we used was ironically our tool. And they said, well, is it SOC 2 compliant? And my CEO said, it will be when we're done here. Like, this is what we're doing. And it's simple. It's just like the checklist. You put in your policy at your organizational level or et cetera. And instead of you getting those red flags and going through the checklist, it will submit PRs for you, which makes that annual cycle much more simple. Automate those policies early with a tool that will make it so that there isn't that burden on engineers, DevOps, developers together, really, right? To bridge that gap and have something that keeps you in check, so to speak. That tool we ran through with some very well-known, purposefully vulnerable products, and just a few of the just running it through with a few policies, there wasn't client authentication, no dedicated tenancy, no data versioning, no encryption at rest, and immediately told us what resources, etc., that were violating that policy, and then submitted that PR. Create processes, standardize procedures, develop clear standardized procedures for tasks related to SOC 2 compliance. This ensures consistency and reduces the learning curve for new team members. Document practices. Implement robust documentation practices early that are easy to follow and maintain. It's like 21 days to break a bad habit. If you start from the beginning doing the good thing, there's no 21-day wait. Making compliance checks and audits smoother and less time consuming. Have an incident response plan. Have a predefined incident response plan that is easy to execute, reducing the burden during stressful security events. And that comes to having a service level agreements around how long does it take for you to respond to an incident? Having an on-call schedule, what does that look like? Is it 24 hours a day? Is it during business hours? Is it only on the weekdays? Etc. Budget engineers' time. This is one of the biggest reasons why people don't do this early. We want to hit the ground running. We need to make a product. We need to get customers. We got to do it. We don't have time for anything else. But if you budget properly, again, and start early with the beginning of your system, you're not taking as much time. Prioritize compliance tasks. Clearly define and prioritize these tasks, ensuring engineers spend time on high-impact activities. Scheduled compliance time. Allocate specific time where people work on this versus regular work. Training and support. Provide training and resources to engineers on SOC 2 compliance. Instead of just telling them to do it, give them the why. They'll be much more interested. To enhance efficiency and effectiveness, reducing time spent on troubleshooting compliance issues. And the most important is outsource where possible. You're not going to be able to outsource certain very niche things, but finding an expert in a certain realm of what you need to complete for certification takes the load off of one of your employees and doesn't take as long because they know what they're doing and they'll do it right. Strategic timing, now or later. You're going to build trust with future and current customers if you do it now. Elevate your reputation, easing the procurement process and with large enterprises. Enhanced incident response management. This one's huge. This doesn't just speak to making money and keeping people happy and getting customers. This speaks to using your time wisely. Like if everyone's scrambling around and going through CloudWatch logs and trying to find what it says and I can't figure out where the exception was thrown, they're wasting time. And honestly, the tools don't cost as much as the time of your employees. And lastly, reducing friction in sales processes. None of that crazy questionnaires and getting all these tools and implementing all these new processes because you've done it already. Lessons learned. SOC 2 isn't just a checklist. It's much more. It's a business growth strategy, operational effectiveness, and security compliance. Identify which TSC your company will benefit most from. Bare bottom is security, and usually those top three are the ones we discuss: security, availability, and confidentiality. 3, and the most important if you ask me, automate. Continuous compliance is key. This, again, SOC 2 compliance isn't a one and done thing. The world is ever changing. Every year you have to get the certification again if you want to rep it. And if you're not doing anything in between, you're not budgeting your time. Number 4, now or later. Now, the sooner the better. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. We do have one question for you.
Okay.
That was posted on Slido.
Cool.
Thoughts on if SOC 2 is security theater flu screenshots? What's the absolute minimum a company can do to get SOC 2 certified?
Okay, so the absolute minimum would be that simple security only, not availability and not confidentiality. And even simpler is type 1. I'm going to go back to security. Type 1 is frozen in a moment in time. On March 3rd, this is what my system looked like. This is what you hand the auditor. Anything after March 3rd is not SOC 2 compliant nor certified. It could be compliant, but it's not certified. Type 1 says in a moment of time, I was doing the right thing. And then security is the only right thing that you have to do. Then you have type 2, which is a little bit more work and engaging, and again, requires time and money to continuously keep that up. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, there's another one.
Okay.
Security and SOC 2 are distractions at most startups. Outsourcing is great, but startups move fast and take risks. Do you have a favorite vendor? Maybe why security?
Okay. Can I say anything about that? Because I know I'm supposed to be like very vendor neutral on these things. Yes, I do. I shared screenshots of the two that I've used and one that I built. But it doesn't have to be a time sink, especially when, like you said, you're moving fast. Like, we hardly had a project and got a product. We had bare bones prototype and got type 1 and continued that implementation. And it was, I'm telling you, not maybe the engineer, like the R&D team probably spent maybe 20 to 40 hours total amongst everybody, not congruently, documenting and doing a few things. There really wasn't much. It was mostly like red tape that our product manager dealt with. So if you start early and implement, it'll be a lot less of a time sink. And the tools, obviously, if you've already started.
How do you convince colleagues that process can improve effectiveness of if done right?
The best way to convince somebody is by doing. Documentation, for example. You could tell people all day, please document this, and they'll continuously just communicate via face-to-face or Slack or an email, but never in a wiki. Do things by example. You'll see a lot more change if you hit the ground running, especially when you're at a startup. You can land grab. There are so many gaps in responsibilities at a startup that you can see a hole and, for example, this, and be the one that starts implementing processes, implementing incident management, and take ownership of it. That's the best part about being at a startup.
We can only take one last question, if that's okay with you. How much responsibility should cloud providers share for SOC 2 ready defaults? It seems like undifferentiated heavy lifting. Every software company out to do.
You see that? Well, so not necessarily are they, you can't, so some of these defaults cost money. And when you are cutting corners, you're not going to want to do a snapshot every 30 minutes. They do have those though. And if you use a tool like the few I showed, and there's many more, and declare that, like, I want encryption at rest on this, this, and this. I want DynamoDB to be on-demand capacity, client IAM roles, etc. Then when you miss a step, and if it's not a default, then the tool will catch it, instead of you having to go and, like, for example, in Terraform, go to HashiCorp's site, go to your cloud provider, find the resource, which there's then 15 that all pertain to the same resource, and they're all subsects of it, and find the one and then read through the attributes that gives you this, like, hardly any information. So then you go to, for example, AWS, and there's hardly anything there, and you got to Google and connect the dots. Leverage tooling. Thank you.
Please join me to say thank you, Elyse.
Thank you.